Today there are many voices who are providing a chorus of alarm for what's happened with the recent spill on the bay. We're taking a little different look at it today, and I'm surrounded by individuals who have dedicated their lives to the protection of our environment, and specifically the bay. But I want to look at this in the context of the bay and its past, present, and future. The federal EPA estimates that even though that was a sizable spill, the accident at the Costco Busan, that it only represents a small fraction of the number of gallons of illegal dumping and oil and toxic spills that go into the bay every year. They estimate almost 20 million gallons from throughout this area. So what this really becomes is a punctuation mark and an assessment point for what we've done and can we do better. We set up in 1989 in the state of California after the Exxon Valdez problem or disaster in Alaska. We set up an oil spill and recovery program or office in the state of California. It's been going on for some time, and like anything else, over time, if you don't have a problem, you tend to forget about the need. And this now is a backdrop to what we can be doing, what we should be doing, and what we better do. First of all, I'm asking the governor to reconsider and sign legislation that I put on his desk this year that would have allowed the modernization of the regional water quality control boards in the state. In the San Francisco Bay region, we have here an office responsible basically for the enforcement of the Clean Water Act. That is governed by a 9-member board. There are not enough appointments there right now, and have not been enough, not only here but throughout the state, for them to have a quorum. If you look at their website as an example, it said there will be a meeting in December pending a quorum. Well, the governor hasn't appointed enough people to create a quorum. What this legislation would also do is to take away the provision right now that basically gives polluters the same vote as experts and those who represent the public interest. So this is on it was on his desk. He vetoed it. I'm going to put it back on his desk. I want him to sign it. Secondly, we are asking the governor to please fill his appointments on the Regional Quality Board. To the best of my knowledge, because they lack a quorum, they lack the authority to even participate in what's going on behind us. They are one of the major agencies responsible for the prevention and cleanup of the San Francisco Bay, and yet we don't have enough people to provide a quorum. So whomever is in that office right now is operating with a lack of authority. By failing to fill those positions, the governor is effectively disarming the primary enforcement agency. And finally, I'm going to ask the governor to do something that he did not do previously. A report coming out of his office in 2005 was rather scathing in its evaluation of the condition of the Department of Fish and Game's Office of Oil Spill Prevention and Recovery. It said effectively that it's undermanned, underfunded, and ill-prepared to respond in a time of crisis. It suggested raising the fee, a user fee, put on the polluters, a nickel a barrel. That's all, a nickel a barrel, in order to hire 34 new staff people who effectively would be trained and are prepared as enforcement officers and response officers. Nothing, as far as I can tell, has ever been done with that report. All of those recommendations have not been put into play. Now, we're very fortunate to have a governor whose celebrity and personality allows the media to attend at a moment's notice. And as we saw in Southern California, when we had a large number of fires recently, the governor responded, was down there, gave a great deal of comfort. It was a great juxtaposition to what happened in New Orleans after Katrina. But you got to do more than talking about the environment and calling people's attention to the dire straits or the condition of the decay of our environment. You got to not only talk about it, you got to take action about it. And we are asking the governor to do just that. There are things that could be done right now to alleviate the outcome of that disaster. But far more importantly, it happens once, it will happen again. And it happens in a very small way, day in and day out in this bay, the aggregate of which is destroying the very environment, the wildlife, and the beaches that we today recognize are so precious to us. So I'm now going to allow people to come up who actually know what they're talking about. They have spent their careers, their lives, both professionally and avocationally. And in fact, we have someone here who represents the so-called crabbers, those who go out and get the Dungeness crab that we all enjoy so much. And they are trying to get the governor to delay, by executive order, the opening of crab season, which begins on Wednesday, so that people don't come down from the north to poach here while we can't deploy. So I'm going to ask the governor, when I get finished here, I will call the governor and personally ask him to issue that order. I'm sorry that it hasn't happened before this, but it should happen, and we will make sure, we'll do the best we can.
First of all, what's happening with that money, the tax on the oil barrels? Is it being spent for other things or really just sitting?
No, it's just there is a surplus. The money's been collected, but the equipment that it was supposed to buy and the staffing, the 34 people that the audit said they were down, haven't been filled. So it's really hard to operate an agency if there's nobody there to do the work.
It's not being used to balance the budget, though, for other parts?
Well, I don't know that those are probably not accounts that can be tapped to sweep. So they're just there.
And then secondly, as you know, I also air in Los Angeles. Should Southern Californians really care about this oil spill in the Bay Area?
Sure they should. We saw with any disaster in the state, from the fires we just had, when one area of the state suffers, when the environment of part of the state suffer, it all suffers. And this is a key element into what makes California the wonderful place to live, a key element to our economy. So no one in Southern California should take any delight in what happened here, and their concern should be for the environment of the Bay Area, because it's the environment of California, in fact, the world.
In fact, it could happen as an oil spill.
Anything can happen anywhere. It can happen off the coast. San Pedro and Long Beach have far more traffic, ship traffic, than we have, and it could happen there as easily as it happened here. The problem here is that we are in a container, and no pun intended, which makes it much more difficult, and you have a much more deleterious effect when there is a spill here. This did not have to happen. The other thing I've been asked the last couple of days, well, what about the Coast Guard? Well, first of all, as much as I've tried, the Coast Guard does not work for me. And secondly, they come in after the fact. When you have a clean water quality enforcement agency, it's their job to make sure that these things are minimized and when the response is maximized. And as I've said, the state of California, I don't know if we're engaged in any of this stuff right now, but I didn't hear anybody say so. The Port of San Francisco, we've got the Coast Guard, we've got a number of different agencies, we've got citizens that want to respond. But sadly, and I'm embarrassed to say this, California is AWOL. We're a no-show on one of the biggest issues that we've seen around here in 25 years.
Don,
yes.
I'd like you and Barry to respond to this. 20 years ago, we had a spill, Shell Oil, around 680 in Marina Vista. About 1 million gallons of oil spilled. Now, mentioning all of that is to say that we learned a lot about marshlands, about the ecology in marshes and the grasses, about biology and how it can clean up and does clean up spills. Are we using all of the methods known and that we're capable of using in cleaning up this spill? And Barry,
well, let me tell you what I know, which won't take long. That if you have a 9-member board and you only have 4 members appointed, you cannot do business. You cannot operate. And the Regional Quality Control Board staff know as much about the ecology of this bay as anybody. But as I said, if they don't have any leadership there, if they are not allowed to deploy, all that knowledge goes for naught. Now, I don't know what they're, honest to God, I do not know what they're doing right now. But you're correct. We have learned, some of the smartest people are behind me right now on this subject, and thousands of people are employed making sure that the bay is healthy. And yet, I'm not sure any of that knowledge is being put to practical use.
If these positions had been filled and the board members all appointed, are you saying it would have been less likely this would have happened, or a quicker response?
Well, I know from the 2005 audit that the office that is responsible for the training and deployment, their plan calls for a certain number of drill exercises, planning exercises a year. They only have enough staff to do about 3% of those drills. So they could have the best equipment in the world, which they don't, the best technology in the world, which I'm sure they don't have, the best communications in the world, which seems to have been lacking, but they don't have any practice in any of this. So it's kind of like going to start your first game of the season with no spring training. I mean, these people don't have the ability to do their job because they do not have enough staff to field a team. These are sports metaphors. It's not the human interest here. Anything else? I'd like to cheer you up, but I just having no crab for thanks. I hadn't thought about that. That's
there regarding crab. Can you get an answer from the governor quicker than Zeke?
Sure as hell going to try. I wouldn't want you to put it that way. I hope so, but I'm not so sure. Now I will. The governor, as you know, had surgery on Friday. But I, there's. If we get to him, I'm confident he will respond. Thank you all very much.